Good afternoon. I'm Tonya Ellis with Write This, my author interview show. Today we have another exciting interview with Jamilah Thompkins-Bigelow, an award-winning picture book author. And I can't wait to get her on to learn about her new book and some of her upcoming projects. I see that she has joined us, so I'm going to invite her on and thank all of you who are coming in to watch the show. This is going to be So I've sent the invitation and I'm excited to have her come on. Hey, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm here in Houston. We've had cooler weather. So for us, like the 50s freezing. So I got a blanket on. I'm in here wrapped up today, but I'm happy for the cooler weather. I'm not going to complain about it.
Wow. Yeah, I heard it was like, kind of snowy down south or, really cold down there. It's only getting a little cold up here. I'm up in Philly, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, see, a few days ago, it was in the 80s and like humid and muggy. And then in one day, it dropped to the 50s. So for us, like in the 40s and 50s. So that's a big change. And that's kind of cool for us down here. But
Oh,
I'm got a sweater on today and I get to wear some of my boots and things like that. So that's a
mm,
treat. Yeah.
yes.
But I am so happy to have you on. I've been admiring your beautiful books from afar, and it's just an honor for me to have you on the show today and learn about your journey and all your works. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You said you were from Philly, about where you're from, and a little bit about how you became an author.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here. It's good to be here. Yes, I'm Philly based, not Philly born. Actually DC born. A lot of people don't know that. But I really claim Philly because I lived here almost all of my life, off and on, but mostly my life. And I started out as an educator, as a lot of writers who write for children do. I started out as an educator. Like I was teaching high school and middle school English. And I had little kids that I was reading children's books to at home. And I realized that these books were very valuable in my own classroom. So I would bring them, to my high school students to spark all kinds of conversations, different children's books. And I recognized that I really love children's books. And I remember my oldest child at the time that I started, he was like 4. And, I'd be like, don't you want to read this picture book? It's such a good picture book. And he'd be like, I'm like, yes, you do. And I'd be like reading it for myself. I was enjoying those books myself. And I recognized that there was something to it, that I had a love for children's books, that maybe I should try that. And one thing I also recognized as a mother of young children is that there was just a lack. There was a lack of children's books featuring Muslim characters and Black characters. And Black Muslim characters, very few of those that were in the world that I could find in the free library for my kids. And I just felt like, that advice, from Toni Morrison, like I need to write the book that I want to see in the world. So I started writing children's books. And the way that I did it as an educator who didn't have a lot of money and who didn't have a lot of time is that I really spent a lot of time going to free libraries, going to the bookstore, but not actually buying the books, and just sitting down and studying children's books and learning and trying to imitate. So in the beginning, a lot of it was very, very self-taught. And now I have, that was like 7 years ago. Now I have some picture books out in the world. So it worked out eventually.
Right. And I know I read that your book, Your Name is a Song, wasn't that a Read Across America book? So that,
It
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that really one of my accomplishments that I'm most proud of, just because I do respect the Read Across America, movement and what NEA does, and just having it named as like the book for that month. I still have December 2021, I'll never forget it. It's very special to me because that was just like, yes, this is, and a book that's important for, hopefully across America, right? And a lot of times when we think about books for all across America, people, they don't think about people that look maybe like me, like us necessarily, and they kind of have us on the shelf say, no, this is a book that should be read across America. It was a really special moment for me.
And even when you think of your name as a song, I mean, that's applicable to any child and to all of us. We all have unique differences. So that's just that celebration. So that's just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope everybody can see themselves in that book. I hope.
Yeah. Now, what about, can you tell us about some of your other books? What are, I know you've got a new one out, and what are the other books you have?
Right. So the first one, take it back because it doesn't get as much love anymore because it's been a while. It got a lot of love. I don't know if you can see Mommy's Kumar back there, the picture frame, but Mommy's Kumar, I still want to give it some love because that was the first one that came out and really was about a little girl who liked to play, who likes to play with her mother's headscarves, her religious headscarves. She likes to play dress up with them. So it was really a story about dressing up, but also, feeling a part of her community, her Muslim community. And then I have, like you said, Your Name is a Song. Abdul's story came out earlier this year. Abdul's story is about a little boy who has lots of great stories to tell about his community, but he doesn't feel comfortable or confident in writing those stories down for his in class when he goes to school, because his writing skills are really he struggles with writing. So his handwriting, he doesn't think is very neat. He can't spell very well. And he doesn't really see a lot of stories like the ones from his community, the ones that he has to tell. So he has to develop the confidence to feel like it's okay for him to make mistakes. It's okay for the writing to not be perfect, that his stories still have value, and that it's really what the story that matters the most. So that's that one. And then this one that just came out, Hold Them Close, and there's a little bit of glare there, so I'll just kind of hold it out, but Hold Them Close. This one's a glossy one, so it's always picking up the light. And this is Hold Them Close, a love letter to Black children. Very special book, particularly because of the artwork. This is a poem to Black children that I wrote in response to anti-Black violence, anti-Black racism. And I wanted this book to, really affirm that our children deserve joy, and also to kind of walk them through difficult conversations of racial violence. But the art in this book is one of the things that I always feel honored and blessed to have in this book. It was illustrated by Patrick Doer, he illustrated around the photography of Jamel Shabazz. So that's why it's just, these pages are really special to me. The art is just magical. It's works of art. I see Jamel's on here. Hi. Just look at this. I mean, wow. And so I just feel like there are a lot of pages, probably all of the pages, you could take them out and you could frame them, and they're works of art that stand on their own because of the amazing photography and the amazing collaging and illustration that happens throughout the book.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's just beautiful to look at. So this is a book that, I think to be cherished. So I cherish it personally.
That's wonderful. Now, something that struck me, I had read through your website, and you talked about how when you started out, or when you were a child, you loved to write, but you didn't really think of that as something that you could do. And I think that's so inspiring for people who aspire to be authors. Can you touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up pretty poor, if I'm being honest. Like, let's just, my family was very working class, and it was a struggle even to put me through college. So to me, it almost felt like, how can I try to do, how can I even try to do something like this, something that's risky? Writing doesn't feel like there's a clear path to making money, right? It doesn't feel, at least when you look at it, like there's no, here, you can get this job and this is the paycheck you're going to get every 2 weeks. And that's how it works. That's not how writing works. So as I always wanted to write, I always was writing as a hobby for fun. But I kind of put that dream in the background for myself and said, let me get myself a practical job. And, I love working with youth, and I love teaching and talking about writing. So it just seemed like a natural fit for me to become an English teacher. And that's what I did. And I was an English teacher, and then I did some other things in alternative education, in the community space. And I was loving it, but there was like this gnawing, where I just needed that creative outlet. Like I needed to take my writing more seriously. And when I recognized that, and when I recognized I had this interest in children's books, I just started doing it. And I kind of ended up almost thrown into the industry in a way. And then, I realized that this is really one of my passions. Education is one, but writing is definitely one. But yeah, I just couldn't see a clear path. And I actually think that is something that holds back a lot of writers from working class backgrounds. We just don't see, like, there's nothing to sustain or support us, and so we have to think about, well, how do we get into the industry, or artists, in general, right? Is there patronage? Are there different avenues for people who just don't come from backgrounds where it makes sense for them to just, like, I need a practical job. A lot of us do. We need day jobs. Even as we become successful, many of us, we keep a day job because it isn't the every 2 weeks, this is your paycheck job. This is like, in 6 months, we'll send you a royalty statement. Like, it's not, it doesn't have that dependability. So.
And that's why I feel like it's so valuable to have interviews like this, show people what the opportunities are. Because like you said, even when I started writing way back when, I started as a journalist because I think I didn't even know any authors. I'd never seen one or met one, and we didn't have the internet like this. So you doing these kind of interviews is so valuable and will be inspirational to younger people out here wanting to write. So thank you for taking this time to do this. Now, you also, I saw on your website, or have done some writing in middle grade books as well. Is that true? Could you speak on that?
Yes. So I have a middle grade coming out in, why do I not know? May. I didn't know the date changed, so that's why I had to think about it. But I do have a middle grade novel coming out in May that I co-author with 3 other authors, so that's interesting. And it's a full novel. So a lot of times people think, oh, there's multiple authors, it must be an anthology. It's not. It's actually a full-fledged novel. And written with, so myself, S.K. Ali, Aisha Saeed, and Huda Al-Marashi. And the book is about these 4 kids, so it's told through 4 different voices, who get stranded overnight in an airport. The book is called Grounded. And they're stranded, and they basically have an adventure in the airport. They get grounded while they're having this adventure in the airport. But it's like kind of a mystery. It's funny. It's lighthearted. The big thing, I think, is that it has different Muslim identities represented in it, but it's not necessarily a book about identity. It's not about Muslim pain or anything like that, Islamophobia. It's not about that. It really is just 4 Muslim kids from very different walks of life who are completely different personalities coming together and having a good time. And it kind of is a breakfast club idea. That's sort of the idea of it, is that these 4, seemingly different characters come together and, form a friendship over like a stormy night while their flights are grounded in the airport. So
that sounds like a lot of fun and something really unique. Yeah. So and that's coming out. When is it coming out again?
It's coming out in May.
Okay. For that sounds like a good book. Yes. Now, what other projects are you working on?
So the picture book that I have coming out in June, Salat in Secret, I'm excited about that. That is a picture book illustrated by Hatem Ali, and it's about a little boy who wants to do Salat. Salat is the 5 daily prayers. He wants to do his Salat while he's in school, but he's too shy to ask for a place for prayer. So he's actually sneaking around trying to find secret places to pray. So that's why it's called Salat in Secret. It's a really cute picture book I hope people will enjoy, and something that kind of illuminate an experience that's very common to Muslims. I do have some picture books, other picture books coming out that haven't been announced, but I'm looking forward to those announcements coming out soon. So I'm really excited about those. And I'm working on a middle grade right now. I've been working on this middle grade forever. I'm hoping to be able to take it to sub. So yeah, I've just been busy, doing all those different things.
That's a lot. And sub means that she'll be sending it out on submission to different publishers and editors to see if they'll buy the book. So that's, yeah, that is great. So you're basically living your dream then.
I am. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always feel like a dream, but because the realities of the situation, right? You go on sub and you also get those rejections. But I will say it has been a blessing to follow that passion and to actually trust that maybe I could become a writer. You know, that is a real dream. And I hope that other people who have this hobby, you know, because that was for me what it was, a hobby, maybe make it into their passion, make it into their commitment, and do the work, because it's not impossible. You know, it's not impossible to live that and to be able to, you know, spend your days, you know, creating worlds and people. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. That is a dream come true.
Now, what are some first steps that you'd advise people to take if they're interested in writing picture books, if they like to write, but they're not sure where to start?
I think you just have to be very well read, from my own perspective, right? Before I even started the you know, taking classes, and I've taken classes, especially as I got more into the industry. But before I even did that, it was on the ground level. I was reading, I was devouring so many picture books. And, you know, especially, and if a book really stayed with me, it really struck me, then sitting down with it and analyzing it, like college level analysis. Do not, you know, underestimate these picture books. They are really complex. There's really a lot to them, you know. So sitting down with them and really thinking through what is happening here, what is, you know, pulling me and what is pulling other readers in, you know, how does this, you know, attract a child? How does it attract the adult reader, you know, and keep them, you know, coming back for more? Why is it so readable? You know, what makes me want to read it again after I finished reading it? Why does that child ask to hear that story 1,000 times? What is it about it? So I think one of the big things to do is just have a healthy diet of, you know, just consuming picture books, and a lot of, and it needs to be a lot of contemporary ones, so ones within the last 5 years. But I would also say even some of the classics, you know, some of the classics that, you know, if you love a classic, you know, read that classic, you know, as long as you recognize that there are contemporary picture books being made and that is what's going to the, you know, selling in the market right now. So those are some of the big things I would say to do. And then I would say there's such a wealth of knowledge that's available online. It's a different world, you know, like you can really find a lot of there are some people who really provide a lot of free resources. And I'm thinking about that writer who really doesn't have a lot of money to spend right now. So this is why I'm sort of saying, well, here, you know, but there are a lot of different websites that have free resources. I link to some of those free resources even on my own website, like, you know, where just authors have been generous and just said, this is how you write a picture book. These are the things you can do to kind of get you started. So those are the big things for me, is like, read those books, sit in that bookstore. You don't have to buy anything. You can have a stack of books and, you know, get your drink and sit there and just looking through those books and taking your notes. And you've got a wealth of knowledge at your fingertips. And you didn't pay for anything except for maybe your expensive drink. So
That's a great idea. And I've read somewhere they recommend reading up to 100 picture books before you write your own picture book to get you grounded in that genre.
Yeah, I've never heard that, but actually I agree with that. That sounds right. Yeah, it should be like, you should really have a working knowledge of so many of them.
Now, another thing that I noticed when you're talking about your books, and I think is just wonderful, is the diversity in your books, but they're also exploring universal issues that all kids can relate to. So how does that feel now that you're able to provide that? You were talking about that gap when you were reading with your own sons. So
It,
sounds.
it feels good. I mean, I remember when I first entered the industry, for example, like there weren't very many picture books with Muslim children on the covers. So that, you know, there wasn't a lot of variety for us at all. So I think about that and I'm like, wow, in 2015, it's very different from 2022. Is it enough? Right. And when I think about the strides, you know, that, you know, Black authors have made, for example, like what we're doing and what we're providing and the kinds of Black joy and the kinds of stories and you know, lots and lots of things are developing. Is it enough? Not yet. Right. But it's we are making strides. We can, like this work, and it does feel empowering. It does feel great. Like we can write stories where like, I never would have imagined that we could have a picture book about the Muslim prayer salat or something like that. Like that just never really, or, a picture book about, names that really, talk about Black names, Black American names, and West African names and South African names. That is the dream. And I lost your question. I forgot because I went off what the real question was. but I'm just thinking about what's possible, the diversity, but also that we can, but also, oh, and I think you were saying something about being universal, right? And like being able to bring that universal. Well, something that I often tell new writers, right, is that, and this is not my quote, this comes from a couple of different writers actually. And I can't think of who right now off the top of my head, but that we go to the specific to get to the universal. So we tell the specific stories, we tell specific experiences to get to the universal. A lot of times people feel like, especially as new writers, that to be universal means to tell a very overly broad story that they think is relatable to everybody. But that's not the case. What actually is the case is to tell your very specific story that is very specific to you. And then for whatever reason, people find the universality in that. They relate to it. They connect to it. So Abdul is telling his story as a Black Muslim who lives in Philly and loves to talk about his Philly community specifically, but has possibly some learning disabilities. And it is his story in every single way. He's going to talk about the water ice, and somebody, in the Midwest who is not of the same faith, is not of the same race, is going to connect with that story and be like, you know what? I know what that's like, erasing all my mistakes and feeling like I have to have everything perfect. And that's still universal, even though it's very specific to one kind of experience.
Right, right. And I just love that. And I can't wait to see some of your upcoming books, especially your middle grade coming out. I know we're running short on time. Got to leave in a minute, but can you tell us where people can find you and your works and find out about your new books as they're coming out? Where can we connect with you?
Sure. So JamilahTheWriter.com is my website. I am probably going to break down and start a newsletter. I've not done a newsletter. I've been very wanting to do it and just putting it off. But now that the breakdown of Twitter is possibly happening, I may have to do it. Usually you can find me on Twitter at JT Bigelow. But I'm a little nervous that may not be a good place to find me. And I'm also on Instagram, obviously, here at author Jamilah.
Right, right. Okay. Well, those are places that will connect with you. And I want to thank you for these gems that you've shared and the encouragement for the authors. Do you have any other quick words for aspiring authors? Any words of wisdom to share with them?
Keep your eyes on your own paper. Meaning, stop comparing, don't let that steal your joy. Stop comparing, well, this person got the agent first, this one got the deal, this one got this, focus on you and your journey. It's unique to you. No one else is going to have your same journey.
Right. And I love what you said about being specific, because your and everything unique about you has what's led to this beautiful career that you're experiencing. And you're just sharing your culture, sharing your journey in space. So this is just wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, and I hope it helps.
Yeah. Thank you. This has been so inspiring to me. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And if you just popped on, please watch the replay because she shared so many gems. And thank you, Jamilah, for the time that you've shared with us. Thanks, everybody. And we'll see you again for another episode of Write This. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me.